We're talking about Parshas Haman. Parshas Haman. Some people tell me, do you say, my first question to anybody who comes to me and says, I'm experiencing problems in Parnasa, because my Rebbe of Shlomo Bravda said there's four Arba Avos Nezikin. The Seches Bava Kama starts off with Arba Avos Nezikin. And okay, there's Shor, there's Bor, there's Mava. Those are the standard ones. But said Rav Bravda, there's Parnasa, there's children, chinuch, there's shalom bayis, and there's health, right? But it seems to me if I would make a poll, that parnasa is number one. Maybe shalom bayis, but they're connected. A person doesn't have parnasa, usually you don't have shalom bayis. This is what Chazal teaches. So I always ask them, so do you say Parshas Haman? And the standard answer will be, yeah, I say Parshas Haman once a year on Beshalach on Tuesday. And I say Parshas Haman. So I say back to them, if there's one day a year that I wouldn't say Parshas Haman, there is one day a year. I don't say Parshas Haman, that's on Tisha B'Av, because the post can discuss, you're allowed to say Parshas Haman on Tisha B'Av, and they say you're not really allowed to, which I'm very happy about that. Because if you're allowed to say on Tisha B'Av, it means it's just a normal part of the davening. The reason you're not allowed to say Parshas Haman on Tisha B'Av is because it's really learning Torah, right? And by learning the Torah about the Amunah, it is instead of having difficulty in Parnasa. So once a year, you're not allowed to say Parshas Haman on Tisha B'Av. I usually say it Motzi Tisha B'Av, after Tisha B'Av. But what about on Tuesday of Parshas Haman? So I know the Rimon Rav would, I believe it was the Rimon Rav, used to say, if you say Parshas Haman on Tuesday of Beshalach, then your Parnasa will be set up the whole year. And I'm not a big advocate, although the Rimon Rav was a very holy Jew. I'm not saying Chas v'Shalom anything against what he said, but I think the way people take it is they feel like, oh, if I do this, I'm set for the whole year. And the unfortunate consequence of this way of thinking is that this is not what Parshas Haman is really about. The Shulchan Aruch, if you look in the Shulchan Aruch, the first simon, and let's just take a peek at that. It's the first simon in Shulchan Aruch, yeah. And I believe, let's see, it's in Shulchan Aruch, Or Chaim, Simon Aleph. So, of course, we know that the first halachah is you should get up like a lion, and then it talks about saying getting up for Tikkun Chatzos, and then you should say daven with kavana. It's halachah in Shulchan Aruch, daven with kavana. And then in halacha hey, Simon Aleph halacha hey, it talks about all the things that it's good to say in davening. And the first one is Parshas Akeda, and the second one is Parshas Haman. But I don't understand. I say Parshas Haman on Tuesday of Bashalach, but the Shulchan Aruch is saying no, it's not enough. It's good to say it every day, and the Shulchan Aruch says it's good to say it. There must be a reason for that. So comes along the Mishnah Berurah here. The Mishnah Berurah is in where is it? In Yud Gimel. Open it up here, if the computer lets me. Here we go. Why is it good to say Parshas Haman every day? So says the Mishnah Berurah. Parshas Haman, Kadesh Yamin Shekol Bazonos, all of your Parnasa Boim Bashkacha Pratis. It comes to Shkacha Bachas. We could see it says Hamar Below Hidiv, My Lo Ichsar. Right? If you work 23 hours a day, you're not going to have more Parnasa. And if you work 1 hour a day, it could be you won't have less Parnasa. And the truth is like this. Rav Avram ben Rambam says, just like there's an Avera to do too much Ishtadlis, there's an Avera to do too little Ishtadlis. You have to know exactly how much Ishtadlis you need. We've spoken about that before. It's a very difficult calculation. You have to know where your needs are. You have to know how much Emunah and Bitachon you have. You have to know which Ishtadlis you're doing. Is this the type of Ishtadlis which could bring you Parnasa, depending on how much work you're doing, right? But says the Mishnah Berurah, and this is not a Musar Sefer, this is a Halacha Sefer. He says, what's the reason to say Parshas Haman every single day, not just Tuesday of Parshas B'Shalach, right? It says, so you should know that your Parnasa comes by Hashkacha Pratis, like it says, Amar B'lo Hidif Amay Lo Ichsar. She'ein Riboy Ishtadlis Moil. Now, Riboy Ishtadlis means extra Ishtadlis. A person has to know how much Ishtadlis you have to do, and not to do extra, right? So let's say a person has made a calculation, I need to do 6 to 8 hours of Ishtalos a day. The Rambam actually in Hilchos Talmud Torah writes, "Who's a balabas? A person who learns for 9 hours and works for 3 hours." I know my Rosh Yeshiva, Rav Tzvi Kushlevsky, say when I go collecting chutzlars, I try to be a balabas. I try to learn 9 hours. Right? It's not so easy to learn 9 hours a day, but there are people who do it. Yeah. But let's say you've decided your chiyuv ishtalus is 9 hours or 8 hours, and that leaves you, let's say, 2 to 3 hours a day to learn. So that if you do extra ishtalos and you take away from that 2 to 3 hours, that's what the Mishnah Berurah means, ribu ishtalos. It's not going to help you, right? And then says the Mishnah Berurah, it means the Yushalmi, which we don't have this Yushalmi, but the Rishonim have this Yushalmi, right? Whoever says Parshas Haman Kol Yom Muftach Lo Shlo Yimayid Mizunah. It's a promise that he'll have enough, his mizonos will be taken care of, right? So I ask people, right? I say, how many hours a day do you work? 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, right? Why don't you take 3 to 5 minutes a day to say Parshas Haman? It's Avtacha, right? It doesn't say whoever has a job and works is Muftach D'Lav Parnasa, right? But it does say that whoever says Parshas Haman every day. So people say it once a year on Parshas Shalach on Tuesday, right? And the problem with that is that Parshas Haman is not a segula, right? Once a year on Tuesday, that's a segula. Parshas Haman every day is a mindset. It's a change in your mindset, right? That you think my parnasa, my work, my styles is not what's bringing me my parnasa. What's bringing my parnasa is Hashem. And why am I doing ishtadlus? Yeah, because Hashem wants us to do ishtadlus. Because otherwise, if one would fall down every day, then we wouldn't have bechira. And this was one of the things that the Klal Yisrael complained about in the Midbar. They wanted to be tested, right? They wanted to be tested. They wanted to have physicality because otherwise there was no tests, there was no nisyonos, and um, they lost their sense of free choice. Yeah, that Chazal Hashem wants us to have free choice. So that's why we don't have money every single day, right? We want to be in a world where we don't really want it, but this is what Hashem has decided. We should be in a world where we have tests and we have to work to see Hashem in our lives. And what's the work? So one type of work is to do ishtadlis. Yeah, when you do ishtadlis, the work of the ishtadlis is to do ishtadlis and to do good ishtadlis, but not the thing is coming from Hashem. That's one type of work. But there's another type of work, which is to strengthen your amunah that when you're working, you should understand that your parnasa is coming from Hashem and not from your ishtadlis, right? So it's tricky, right? And I always have this argument with one of my relatives. How much time do you put into Ishtalis and how much time do you put into Amuna? Right? Okay, so you're going to tell me, if you're doing 8 hours a day, right, how many hours? 8 hours, if we multiply it by 60, yeah, it's right, 480 minutes, right? So 480 minutes, let's call it 500. So 500 minutes a day you're doing Ishtalis, so at least 5 minutes a day that's only 1%, right? We're not asking for so much. And if you say it quicker, so it's 3 minutes, it only might be half a percent of your day. So Lamaisa, right? Hayotz mikol anal. Whoever says Parsha Man on Parshas Peshalach on Tuesday, they should be gebenched and they should say it. But it should be the beginning of saying it every single day, right? Because when you say it every single day, it affects your mindset. And I saw in Sfarim it says that if you say it every single day, you're ochle man. You're called a man eater, right? And whoever ate man, that was a very, very big thing to eat man, because it really affected your whole outlook and attitude towards life. So Hashem should help us to understand, right? Whoever says Parshas Haman every day, he'll understand that we're developing our mindset, our outlook to Ishtalis, our outlook to Amunah, our outlook to how Hashem brings our Panasa. That's number one. And if you only say it on Parshas B'Shalach, I'm suggesting maybe it should be a start. Say it for another month, or at least another week, or 2 weeks, and you'll see it changes your whole attitude on life. And Zrat Hashem, if you do that, then your life will be very different. And a lot of people tell me it doesn't necessarily bring you more money, but it just flows much easier. It takes off the burden of parnasa, because parnasa is not meant to be a burden. It's meant to just be a mitzvah, like putting on talis and tefillin, or davening, or any other mitzvah. So Hashem should help us that all of us should have parnasa, b'shefa, and all.